Everybody. Whoops. Good morning, everybody. We're so happy to get together with Anya this morning. My name is Miranda van Dam. I'm the founder of the Axial Spondyloarthritis Association of South Africa. The Voice of the Patient is a program designed to bring not only live witness, but also to educate and support you at home. Today, we're going to be speaking to Anya about her journey with her disease, and we're going to get some insights of how best she manages her disease. Anya, we're so happy to have you here. I know it's a Saturday morning for us. It might not be when we're putting the recording out, so thank you for your time, and we really appreciate having you with us today.
Thank you, Miranda, for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm happy to share my story and just help anyone out there who might be listening to this.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So, Anya, could you tell us a little bit more about your journey, with Axpa, and a bit more about yourself and when you started feeling your first symptoms?
Yeah, so I started studying at the University of Pretoria in 2008. And before that, I did have some minor issues with general joint pain, specifically with my knees and shoulders and between my shoulder blades. But then it did start getting worse. And by 2011, it really started to become a problem. And I think that's also why I might be jumping ahead now, but I think also that's why it took so long for me to get diagnosed, because I had asymptomatic symptoms. I didn't have the normal, pain at the lower back symptoms. Mine was pain between my shoulder blades that was unexplainable, and then big joint pain, so knees, hips, and shoulder pain. So I started going to any doctor that you can think of, physio, normal doctors, sports doctors. I had CT scans, I had MRI scans, the whole lot. And no one could tell me anything. Most of them just told me, no, just some exercise, some physio or stretching or something like that. But I never had the very specific pain at the lower back area. And eventually in 2018, I did end up at a rheumatologist. We had some progress, but I only got my final diagnosis of Axpa in 2022. So it was almost 12 years that I was struggling to get a diagnosis. And I think that the other thing that made it very difficult is because I do have fibromyalgia as well. So both of them were flaring up and causing all of these issues. So it was very difficult to pinpoint one of them. And also mostly due to the fact that I didn't have the clearest symptoms of Axpa showing. So at the end of the day, the only way they diagnosed me is by the gene, picking up the gene, and then some of the other minor symptoms. Yeah.
I'm not surprised by your story in the way that you were misdiagnosed and why. And it's really difficult to diagnose a female specifically because the symptoms are all over the show. I mean, I remember my symptoms. I didn't have back pain to start with. I couldn't get my arms up to blow dry my hair, so it was also between my shoulder blades. And I mean, also the thing is, you go, well, it's just pain between my shoulder blades. Why should I be looking into it? Why should I be, it's not as though you need stitches or anything. So I think it's to the side of the doctor, but also to the side of the patient is when is the time to take your symptoms seriously when it's going beyond a certain point of time. And I mean, how do you feel? I mean, it's been a huge delay in diagnosis. And what was the first thing that went through your mind when they gave you your diagnosis? How did that, what was going through your head?
I think my by then I got married. I think one of the before I one of the main things that got doctors very stuck, because the pain was between my shoulder blades and up on the upper back, and I was studying chemical engineering. I think they kind of related that with stress the whole time. So they kind of just punted me in saying, no, it's stress related, get some just muscle relaxants and just go away and relax. But eventually, when I did get my diagnosis of fibromyalgia and then EXPA, I think my husband thought I was crazy because I started crying, but it wasn't because of sadness, but it was because of happiness, because I felt like I wasn't crazy. Finally, there's a reason why. Because over those years, it started to feel like people are saying, no, but it's just in your head. You're just imagining it. It's not that bad. But you're sitting there with all of these symptoms and you're like, listen, it's killing me. I'm not making it up. Yeah, so getting that diagnosis was a very big one for me.
Oh, giving me goosebumps. I actually get emotional thinking about the relief of it, right? The relief that you're actually not crazy, that because eventually you almost become quiet. You don't want to tell people there's something wrong with you because there isn't a name, there isn't a disease. I started becoming more and more quiet about my pain because I was going, but I've been to all these doctors. Nobody's saying anything to me. The last guy told me I got to get some mental assistance. And finally, the relief in it's the crisis thing, but I remember feeling happy once I got the relief, and I was so emotional. It took me ages after my diagnosis to get my head together because this, like you're saying, crying, it's not a sadness. I think it's that reality that you finally know that what you were feeling inside was the real thing. It wasn't in your head. It was your reality. This was nobody else's reality. And finally, I mean, it sounds to me like you've been from pillar to post, being not listened to. Nobody was hearing what you were saying. And to finally get that person, I mean, you could always, like, I will never forget that doctor. I feel like I could go kiss him.
Yeah, no, 100%. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat.
Do you want to stop? Let's have some water. As we're waiting for Anya to just go and grab a glass of water, if you're listening to this recording and you are moved by Anya's witness, it's so important that we share stories and that we have open heart to share, not just the joys, but also the challenges of diagnosis. And we are privileged to have Anya in the room with us at the moment, who's sharing her very intimate journey with her disease and the challenges. Before Anya went for a glass of water, we had just finished talking about that moment where she finally got her diagnosis and how it drove her to tears. And that those tears were really tears of joy and not sadness. And I'm interested we can talk about the clinical aspect of the disease in terms of your doctors and your management. That's something we will discuss, but I'm more interested in the mental side of this disease and the actual impact it has on patients. So what happened then from that moment that you were diagnosed? I mean, take me through the next 10 days, 2 weeks. I mean, a lot happens, a lot doesn't happen. What
Yeah.
did you start doing? What happened?
Um, I think it was really a big period of going through so many emotions at once. Because it's definitely that big relief. And I don't think anyone um, no one with that didn't go through this process, having 12 years of people telling you that what you're feeling is not there, or it makes you really feel like you are going crazy. It makes you feel like you are doubting yourself. And you don't know if you can trust your body, because you're like, is this really real? I mean, you can see the tests, and I am a very scientific person of nature, because I'm a chemical engineer and I study all these. So, you get the test back and you see all of these the results yourself, and you're like, but what I'm feeling and what the tests are saying, that the science are saying, is two different things. So when you finally get this thing and they say you're not crazy, initially, like you said, it's euphoria. It's absolute. It's impossible to describe. But then it's like you do go through a roller coaster of, I think you do go through that roller coaster of anger, and then bargaining and grief and all of that, because then you have anger for all the other doctors. Why didn't they help you? Why did it take so long? Why didn't no one listen to you? um, Grief for having to have spent the last 12 years feeling like you're crazy, and losing a part of yourself. So it was definitely quite a bit of a roller coaster. But thankfully, the doctor that helped me get diagnosed, and this is the funny part, it wasn't a rheumatologist. It was our general practitioner. He was the one that actually listened. Because I'm a student, you tend to, fall around different, you go to the emergency room if you need something, but once I got married with my husband, once we started establishing roots in Pretoria, I said to him that we need to get a doctor that we visit properly, or the whole time, because it builds a bond. And it was this doctor that eventually said, I think there's something else going on. I'm going to send you to this person. And then he sent me to that person, and then she got me diagnosed. And ever since, that doctor has been the central point of my treatment. So it's not even with my whole process now as well. I go to my general practitioner, because he's the one that first listened. He's the one that first believed me that my symptoms are more than what other people think they are.
Mm. And so I'm interested in knowing, so now we are at a point where you found out you diagnosed, you have the piece of paper that gives your HLA-B27 marker, and you can check it out and you can almost go, this is my paper, this is my diagnosis. So just take me through the next couple of weeks. Where did you go? How did you talk about it to friends and family? How was your understanding about the disease? How did you educate yourself? How did you manage that part of it?
Yeah, so the first thing that I started doing was definitely educate myself on what it is, what the general science behind it is as well, because I get very interested in the very nitty-gritty science part of it. So I just went on the internet and started looking at, medical papers and journal articles and whatever I could find about the disease. But obviously, I had both eczema and fibromyalgia, so I had to look into both of those. Because I also wanted to figure out, what symptoms is kind of related to which disease, what is more fibromyalgia, what is more eczema, so that I can know um, when one flares up, how do I manage that? Because each of them are managed a little bit differently. So that was quite a interesting ride. And I have to say that one of the first things that I did do is trying to find a community of people that do have the disease, and that's where I found you guys. I think I found you on Facebook first, and I joined that group. So I've been part of your organization since 2021. And it's really helped me as well, because of the resources and everything you put up on your website is more, I find, trustworthy, because it's difficult to find the correct information on the internet, because everything's very contradictory. So yeah, just doing that, and also finding people that have the disease that you can relate to is very important. And I found that to me, it was very important to get a group that I can talk to, because I knew that it is going to take my family and friends a long time to understand this. Unfortunately, yeah, my family and friends still struggle to understand what it is and what's happening. So even just knowing that you have a group out there, even if it's just on WhatsApp, that understand what you're going through. You don't have to give them the explanation behind it. You don't have to, yeah, it's just easier. You just tell them you feel this way and everyone already understands. So I think that was my top priority, is to get to know more about the diseases and then find a group that I can relate to as quickly as possible, within that first period. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm quite happy when you're talking about research that you're saying you're not just Dr. Googling, you're reading proper journal articles and things, and that's so important. That's part of the teaching. So in the organization, we're always saying to patients that educated patient is a much better managed patient. So I'm happy to hear you're already doing that quite well. And of course, I'm delighted to that you found us. I mean, there's such value in getting together with people that are just like you. I mean, you can say, you don't know, you can just say, listen, I feel like a buck has rammed into my back today, or whatever. And there's never a piece of judge. And what I love about the group is, it doesn't matter what you throw inside, there's never judgment. There's never, oh, but why don't you try this diet? Or don't you think you should drink less, whatever? There's just total sympathy, total love, total support. So I think it's crucial to have that outside of your network that you have already at home and your friends and family. Because I also find that I filter what I say and who I say it to, because some of my friends and family are better equipped to talk to me about my disease and not be shy, really asking me about the ins and outs of the disease. And where other my friends and family are almost like, don't want to talk about it. They know I have it, but it's almost like we're not going to talk about it, we're not going to ask. So I think it's very important, this, this patient support group. And I think that was one of the reasons when I got diagnosed, I felt so isolated. I thought, surely there's got to be more people like us. And it makes me so happy to hear that you have found such solace in the group, and we are able to get the resources and things to you, and we will keep on doing it. We want to try and find those resources the things that patients are finding difficult to do or talk about or whatever, and help them with that. So I think that's really, really important. Anya, I want to ask you, you've now obviously walked the journey. You've lived with the disease now for a while, since your diagnosis. I mean, you 3 years in, if I 3 years in, 4 years in from your diagnosis.
Yeah.
What if there were any patients that's just been diagnosed that are on listening to you right now? Is there anything that you can, piece of advice, or something that you can give them, or something that you think you could have done better, or is this like something out of your toolbox that you can say, this is something that I found out, or that I've realized, or wish I'd known? What would that be?
Um, I think for me, I think the most important thing is definitely to have some form of mental health assistance, whether that is a psychiatrist, whether that is a psychologist, someone to help you, because you are going to go through quite a interesting process of emotions. I did not expect the emotional roller coaster that I would go through. And even today, going through it, 3 years in, there's a lot of things that it sounds really weird, but once the psychiatrist or psychologist really put it into perspective for you, it's understandable why you would go through something like that. For instance, I can share the where I am now in my mental journey is I'm very much in the grief stage right now. I think the past 2 years was a whirlwind of, yes, I've got this diagnosis. Now we have to try and figure out what's going to work best for me, getting the medication balance between fibromyalgia and this and this and this. So you got focused on being proactive and having something done. But after a while, and now you get into that process of grief where you start realizing that you grieve the person that you thought you were going to be, because it starts, the realization comes in that, this disease might affect you in different ways. And if you might not have noticed it, but subconsciously you have this idea of what you are going to be in the future. And yeah, you're going to have grief about some of those ideas. And then you are also going to grieve the person you used to be. So, and it for me, it really did hit me very hard. And I didn't know at first what it was, obviously. So I think that's one thing that I would really, really recommend, is having that one mental health professional to help you through this journey. You don't have to see them every day or every week, but I do think it is very important to have that person there in case you feel like there's something going on. It is very important because this disease, whether you just have eczema or like me, I have a few other autoimmune diseases going on as well, not just eczema, it does affect you mentally. So that would be my most important tool in my toolbox if I would recommend anyone.
And I think the emotional impact on a patient is overlooked. If you imagine you see your doctor 1 hour a year and the other 9,000 hours or whatever it is that's left in the year, you have to navigate this disease on your own. And that grief part for me was a huge part. I was feeling so sorry for myself, you know. At first I was excited about like the medication and the stuff, and then I was going, is this going to be my life? Needles, medication, blood tests, you know, it's never ending. And grief is a different thing because there's nothing really nice about it. You just gotta you gotta lean into it, and you know, there's an end. What I can tell you is there's an end to it, but it's one of the phases that I least enjoyed. It was the grief part of it, literally going, you know, shit, my life's never going to be the same again. Anya, what is it that what is your greatest fear after being diagnosed? What is something that you do worry about that you don't think you have an answer? I mean, there's always something in the background. What do you worry about? What is the things that scares you and frightens you?
I think mine is mostly the fear of the unknown, the fear of is this disease gonna end up getting me disabled? Yeah, so because I am a very active person, I like doing my job, I like doing all of these things, and I'm really scared of having to be disabled to a point where I can't move anymore. Or I mean that's the long term thing, but I think with fibromyalgia included, it's just that fear of, is it going to get worse? Is I think that's the daily thing is what gets me sometimes, is if you start feeling the pain, you're like, is this going to be where it stops, or is it just going to go to a 10? You have no idea. And that's the daily fear. But I think the long-term fear is definitely, is this going to make me disabled? And how is that going to impact my life?
Absolutely. That's always one of the doctors I saw told me I was going to be in a wheelchair in 2 years' time, and it sits in the back. I mean, I know I'm not going to sit in a wheelchair. It sits in the back of your head, just stays there, stays there, stays there. So that is, yeah, that's such a thing. And I think with me, I don't know if you have a similar thing, but I would, so you know, you have the delay in diagnosis, finally you get diagnosed, then there's the relief, then there's the grief. But what I started realizing is that I was starting to think, you know, I started to try and find the space of remission that they're talking about. Meaning that period that you're functioning without any huge pain that you can, you know, you don't need to medicate yourself. So I was starting to become very aware of those periods. But what I would do then is when I do start having pain or a flare, whatever, I get so stressed about it. I literally would almost go into a flat spin, and then my head would go, okay, this is day 1. Is tomorrow going to be day 2? And I mean, day 0, I was feeling fine. But day 1, I'm not. And I go, is this going to be day 2? Is this going to be day 3? And I get myself into such a flat spin every time the pain would come back so severely. And the one thing I've learned is to just go, you know what? It's actually going to pass. And what I do now when I feel is like, Actually, this week I fled because my medication didn't arrive on time. So I took, because of all the long weekends, I took my medication 10 days after I was supposed to. And I just knew there's a flare coming. And a flare came and I just cancelled my plans. I had long bars, put candles on, music, and I just knew I started believing that it does pass. And then that's definitely changed my experience, that knowing that it's like a storm, you got to just get through it and the storm eventually dies down. And once you start believing that there's an end to the storm, I think that for me, it made my flare management a lot easier. What do you do outside of your, I mean, of course, you're seeing a specialist and you're on a treatment regimen, that's your medical side of it, but what do you do? Do you exercise? How do you manage your disease outside of the medication and things you take? What's working for you? Eating anything special, not special? Went to bed early. What is your recipe?
So I think something that I did that I didn't even know helped before I even got diagnosed is gymming. I'm a gym addict. And I think that really got me through that time period that I wasn't diagnosed, because subconsciously it helped. So that's definitely one of the things that's very important to me, is gymming, not to lose weight or not to do this or to do that. It's just a mental thing for me. I do it because I enjoy it. And as mentioned with exercise does help. I think the most important thing that I just figured out now is that I just need to change my gymming regime a little bit to fit in with, what your body is doing from day to day. That's a very important thing, is to listen to what your body needs. So gymming is very important. I think finding hobbies or something that is almost like a meditative thing really helps for me as well. I cannot sit and meditate. My brain is too busy for that. So I find other ways of meditating. So I like movement-based or something that distracts my mind. So paint by numbers, very good. So you have your there's an app that I use as well. They have like meditative words or someone saying like a meditative thing. So you put that on and you listen to it and just do your paint by numbers. Really helps your mind to relax. Or I'll do the same thing, but then I'll do like a mix between yoga, Pilates, and stretching, but it's more a what does my body need today type of feeling. Oh, my back feels a little bit this way. Let me stretch that while I listen to this thing. So it's just ways of getting out of your mind, and doing movement without having to, sit and concentrate and try and meditate. And I can't do that. It's just too too difficult. So that's definitely the most important things for me, is the movement and the mental aspect. And then the dietary aspect, we're still working on. It is a bit difficult because of fibromyalgia. Fibro just likes to flare up wherever it wants. I saw this nice meme the other day. I wish my chronic illness was, or my chronic pain flare was due to some badass reason, but my body is throwing a temper tantrum because it's raining outside. That's definitely what fibromyalgia does. So trying to figure out a diet that doesn't get that flare up going too badly is a bit of a stretch. But one thing that I did have identified as a problem for me personally is gluten. So that's something that I've steered away from a little bit more. So it's a holistic thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely have to approach it from all angles.
Yeah, it's not just the one piece of advice, it's a whole lot of others. I actually started doing the painting my numbers. I absolutely love it, eh? So it's like I sit there, be mindless, but I'm still busy doing something. And yeah, it's meditating for me is just, I've tried it just, but finding that space of joy of something that you can do that's not your family, that's not your work, it's not, it's completely selfishly something for you.
Yeah.
That's in, you know, in the balance of being a person. Anya, I've really loved your story, and you are so resilient and brave, and speaking to me today so openly, and the raw emotion of your journey is sure going to touch many hearts. And yeah, we appreciate you stepping up and sharing your story. I think these patient stories are so important. I think the first step is almost like coming out and talking about your story. It sounds like the weirdest thing, but I think it's almost the most important thing. It's like, if you can imagine, in some churches they have a baptism, or this happens, that happens. And I think with this disease, actually coming out, really telling your story is that first step. And I could almost see when you were talking, you were getting emotional, because that's what happens when you actually say it, talk about it, and validate what it is that you've been through. That's where
Yeah.
the magic begins. And we're so proud to have you as one of our members, and we hope to see you in all the spaces. And it will be interesting for us to have a talk. We schedule another one a year down the line to see what's changed from when we last spoke. I think that will be an interesting journey for me to follow you through your life with this disease. And I wish you well, and I want to thank you for sharing your information with us. And we will be posting this video early next week. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions. And you must have a wonderful weekend, and enjoy your paint by numbers.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And thank you so much for creating the space and putting it out there for people like us. It's very important, and I don't think you have I don't think it's a measurable, there's something that we can measure to show how much impact it is having currently. It had a major impact on me, and yeah, I just thought it would be this interview is one of the ways that I can give back. I really want to be part of the volunteer system as well once I'm able. So you will definitely see more of me coming into the space as well.
Oh, Anya, that makes my heart so warm. Thank you for the kind words, and we will be happy to have you as part of our volunteers. You must have a happy Saturday. For anybody that's listening to this interview, sure, let's send some love for Anya. And if you want to talk about your story, get in touch with us. We'd love to speak to you. And have a happy weekend. Bye.
Bye, everyone.